Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel and to this series of building the P51B and RC conversion. So as I mentioned in the introductory chapter, I'm going to start with the wing. The design actually calls for top and lower spars to save weight, but I'm going with solid spars and I've already cut them out. As you can see, let's see, here's one and here's the other, so one wing and the other wing, and I've reduced, I don't know if you can see it, but I've reduced significantly, maybe by half the dihedral that I wanted to have. This is because the design is actually made for rubber power. This is going to go for RC, so I'm hoping that this is okay. It's still, I think, more than the scale model, but some stability is good, and the dihedral does help with that, right? That's the point of it. So I've done the main spars. It's actually two pieces, and I've just stuck them together with some masking tape, because what I'm doing now, I'm going to build in some reinforcements. I've already traced out here onto my 1mm ply. Don't know if you can see it quite, but then I'm going to put in some reinforcements, probably two of these, one in front and one in the back, going up to rib number 4, which is here, because at rib number 4 is where the whole undercarriage system has to go in, right? So I'm not sure how I'm going to do it, but I'll probably be fixing things onto the spar, so I want to make sure that it's quite strong. Also, if it does have undercarriage, it's going to take some hits if it ever flies and if it ever lands, so I want somehow that main spar to be reinforced as much as I can. So I'm going to put probably 1mm in front, 1mm in the back, so it's going to be 2mm of balsa and 2mm of plywood, a bit like the mosquito, right? So that's going to be a sandwich there of that. Then outboard of number 4 rib is going to go then the servo for the ailerons, right? So it's still going to be quite a lot of weight going on, and I don't have any more of the small servos left, so I don't know if I'll buy some of those or if I go with the big ones. I might buy some, because then, so that means that quite a lot of weight is going to go into this part, holding everything, and of course also holding the whole weight that's going to go here in the fuselage with the engine and the SE and battery and things like that, right? So that's why what I'm doing now is building the spar. I'll probably mark where the location of the ribs are going to go, and then try to figure out how to actually put in the ribs. On the original design, as you might be able to see here, the spars are supposed to thread through because they're hollow ribs. I'm going to probably make fixed ribs out of 1.5mm balsa, not fixed, solid ribs, but there's still going to be some considerations to be done, right? The first one is that where am I going to cut it that it fits through, or should I do split ribs, which is also a possibility. And also for rib number 2, I estimate I'm going to need to put in a gap, because that's where the undercarriage will somehow swing up and tuck away into the wing. So that's those are problems that say ahead. So as I say, first of all, I'm going to do the plywood. I'll probably make some fixes, maybe with screws. I'm thinking maybe just to screws and bolts that I can actually take it apart, but that I have it somehow in place. I'm thinking that when the moment comes, then I'll probably go with glue and glue it all together, but I'm guessing that I'm going to have to take it apart a couple of times before that happens. So on this chapter, building up the center section of the wing and figuring out how to put the undercarriage on, and just wrapping up an enjoyable session of assembly. I think it's starting to look like something. So the main spar, made up of two balsa pieces, 2mm thick, solid, not like in the plan, and I've also put a 1mm plate on the back and the front of plywood. Working with plywood is much more difficult than balsa, evidently, so I do use the hand drill or the hand power tool, which is also a skill I need to develop. And basically I traced it out, I made one, and then from that I made the other. I don't know if you can see it, but then to make sure that I could do both sides the same, I then wrote, you can't see it probably, it's not focusing right. Here I wrote down the distances from the middle point. I took that as a datum, and then basically copied that same distances onto the other side. I'm trying to make it, of course, both sides as equal as possible. At the moment it's just held in place with the screws, bolts and nuts, Those will be then eventually be removed and then replaced with glue, but that's still going to take some time. So that is then for the main spar, and it gives the full wingspan. I don't know if you can see it. It doesn't fit even, right? I'm not sure how much it is. Quite a lot. Let's say it like that. Probably can look it up. I'll look it up what the wingspan actually is. So the main spar, quite a lot of work, especially with the plywood. And then also started with the ribs. So these ribs, and I put it rib 1, which is this one that I'm going to make solid also. I'm going to make all these solids. On the plan they're very nicely designed to be actually built individually, but I'm going to make them all solid for a bit of strength. And I was thinking maybe the wingtips to make them not so solid, but on the other hand, if a wing strike on the ground is probable, if not inevitable, so it's probably still okay to go with the solid ribs. So I've put now, I think this is rib number 3 and rib number 4, and I make one, I trace it with onto masking tape, I put it onto the wood, and then once I have one, then I trace out the other one, and then I sand them down to be as similar in size as possible. Of course, if one had a laser cutter, like some people do, you don't have that problem. You just have to design it on the computer, which is probably also even more difficult. But anyhow, so that's coming together nicely. I started with these ribs because here at some point is where the whole mechanism of the landing gear is going to go, and then from here outwards is where the aileron is going to go. So I'll also show you the servos that I got, but now I have to figure out, probably I still do the other 4 ribs, let's say the inner ribs that are missing, and have to figure out the whole landing gear contraption and things like that. To which I've also been thinking, like the landing gear or the retractable landing gear would need a servo, and if you notice it, this is kind of the 9-gram servos that I'll be using for this. I have to somehow have the arm more or less in the middle at this position, but of course then the servo would be sticking out the bottom, and this is already on the bottom of the airplane. So what I'm going to have to do, I'm going to have to put it upside down. I hope that's okay. And I'm thinking a position something like I don't know how, like I have to maybe like this. I think I was thinking put it somehow like this, build it in like that, that then the servo arm is tightly up against the spar, but it still needs to have space to move if needed, right? So then also one of the headaches, and it's going to be actually, yeah, on the front. This is going to be the front, so it's going to have to be here. So I have to figure out how I'm going to put this in place, fix it there, maybe some kind of construction, a screw maybe would go in, but just one side. So I still have to do kind of like a servo build here. I'm not sure how, somehow a shelf for the servo for the landing gear, and it has to be of course relatively rigid because it will get some impact, some movement. So that's also a bit of the challenge to think it up, and then of course the whole landing gear to go up and down. I have bought already some wire. I won't show you that, but that's just wire. The 1mm thick for the wheels itself, and I think 0.8mm for the push rods is what I'm thinking. And I've also got, as I went to the shop, I got some wood, the rods, and also some of the small servos. These are like 1.8 gram servos, not very powerful, but I'm hoping that light enough and strong enough, hopefully for the aileron. So anyhow, that just goes there into the stash of servos, because the focus now is the landing gear. So I'll progress, I'll do this, and I'll try to maybe make some prototypes with the landing gear and the mechanism there, and I'll get back to you when I have some progress. So update time. Maybe I should have shown you a few moments ago, because I had all the ribs, not all the ribs, but ribs 1 through 4 on both sides. I believe now this is going to be the left side. They should be the same. So I had all the ribs in place, and what I've been working on now, still got here some pegs holding in place, is the mount for the landing gear. This is kind of the most difficult part, because at least it's not on the plan, of course, I have to think it up. It's going to be a 1.5mm wire, and I hope that's enough. That's going to be then the landing gear, kind of hanging down and swinging up. Let's see if I do it like that. It'll hang down here and swing up here. And then I've decided in the end to put the actuator, basically the bends in the wire, to be behind the the spar. This down is the front in this moment. I've also put on the servo, and as you can see with that new plan, you're actually backwards. I thought I was going to put all the actuator also in front, but I wanted to use the strength of the spar with the plywood somehow to hold the landing gear, so that when the landing gear hits the ground or just holds the plane, that the energy of the weight goes into that reinforced spar, right? So the good thing is that I did not glue the servo in place. I just put on a bolt in preparation. So what I hope I just need to do is just to unbolt it, bolt it around the other way, and that's it. And what I've done with the servo, just packed it a little bit of balsa, bit of ply, put in some wire also on it, just to make sure hopefully that it's as stiff as possible. And once in place, I should also be able to hold it in place with more things, because it does wobble a little bit. I don't know if you can see it. Maybe when it's glued, then it will be a bit less, but still, probably would be good for it to have maybe some more strength, some more holding. So that's the progress so far. The next headache is going to be to take the landing gear. I like the design here that the designer put in here. I don't know if you can see it actually. This is the landing gear wire. So it's a landing gear wire comes in up here, goes down, and then has this bend in it, which I believe is supposed to be the spring in it, right? So I want to copy that same design, only that it's not going to go then back down, just going to go up and then go into the mechanism of swinging. So I'm really hoping that 1.5 millimeter, here it says 18 gauge, maybe I should look that up how much that is, but still it's different, because this will be for very light airplane, right? So I'm hoping that 1.5 millimeter is enough strength, and then also be able to then swing up into the wing inwards. Here's, I don't know if you can see it, yeah, more or less here, number 4, and then former 4, rib 4, and then swim back into around close to the fuselage basically. So progress on that. Once that is done, I want to test to see if it actually swings. That's going to take also a little bit of a headache to do the connecting rods in between, and if that goes well, then I'll do the other side. Still experimenting, so there is a chance that I have to actually redesign it and rebuild it, but I'm hoping that I do go slowly on this. I take my time to think. I get stuck, then I think a little bit more, and then I come up with ideas. And the idea that I came up with earlier today was to use rivets. These are pop rivets, and I just take them out of the popping mechanism, whatever it is, and I use that as a bushing or as a bearing, so it doesn't go directly to the wood. Maybe over engineered, but again, this is going to take some weight. I also put in another piece of ply here to make sure that, so it's got actually 3 pieces of ply holding it in place, and a piece of bolts also. So I'm hoping that that's going to be able to take the hit and distribute the force of the landing and of the whole plane somehow, that it doesn't just break on the first landing. We'll see how that goes actually. That will take time. In any case, I'll update you with a bit more. I think this chapter is lasting already a bit long, so hopefully the next one I can give you some real updates. And last update, time to wrap up this video, because it's being a little bit of a battle and I'm ranting on. So let me clear out a little bit what I've managed to do. Let's see if you can see it. So I don't know if I've shown you this already. I put a block of balsa, some plywood, and 2 pop rivets, like the top of the pop rivets. I've taken them out of their popping rod, let's say, and I made them as a hole, as a bushing for the axle. And then I've mocked up with a smaller gauge wire the landing gear. Here it is, trying to copy the design that I have here, because that would act also somehow as the cushioning, or to soften the landing basically, right? I've also then taken a rod. I've got a set of rods like this. I've bent it around to make a little loop here to connect that, and after a lot of trial and error and a bit of frustration, because it wasn't really working, I'm going to put the wheel on so you can see it, because I think you can't see the wheel. I finally managed, I think, to get it somehow in line. This is actually the front. Now we're looking at the front part, so actually this would be, the propeller would be somewhere here and things like that. And let's see if I connect this the proper way. And there it goes, and I've got it on manual mode, I hope. Going up, and let's see, and there, landing gear down, let's see if you can see it, and then landing gear up, down, up. If you notice, the servo is not completely fixed, so it's just being held by one side, so probably I think if I glue it in, it'll probably help, but I'm still probably going to need to fix it some other ways, either to the trailing edge of the wing. Somehow I need to fix it, but the mechanism seems to be working. My other worry is going to be that how to stop it from going too far out, right? Like, it looks good like this, but if it's actually, you see, it has somehow no stop, and I think that's because the servo is not completely fixed. Let me put it back on. The wheel is not going to be this one. I went to the shop, they only have one wheel, I think a 43mm, they don't have the pair, so I didn't get them. So I've ordered online 2 more wheels, and hopefully they'll have them in the shop later this week. So anyhow, this is fun, now that it works. You can do landing gear down. I have to figure out how to fix it. Maybe put some stop or something, I have to figure it out. And up, you see, down, up, down, up. Then I'll have to adapt, of course, then the ribs. I think this would be rib number 2. They would go here, so I've got to probably cut it out here a little bit, but I'm going to wait probably until I have the wheel, so that I can actually cut it to shape and then build somehow the wheel well, build it in at let's say specifically for it. What I've done, as I don't have the wheels yet, I've gone ahead and I've bent the 1.5mm. I figured out that 18 gauge is 1.2mm, so it's a little bit thicker than in the plane, which is good because it's a much heavier plane. And I've let's see, so this would be then the left landing gear already on the thick part, and this would swing up like this, hopefully, with a bigger wheel. So I've also made it a little bit shorter, hopefully to accommodate. I do hope that also the 1.5 goes well through there. The challenge is going to be, once I put it in, and I'll probably do it then, is to get the bend. I'll take this off maybe, or maybe not, I can leave it on, to get the right bend into the wire. I don't know if you can see it. You see here the wire comes up, then does a little bit of a twist, and then maybe some also turn to block it, or I might use a sequin or something to block it in way and then cut it off. So that's going to be difficult to make on site, hanging in there. It's difficult enough to bend this wire as is, it's quite hard, but to bend it when it's already there, that's really going to be difficult, and then adjust it and things like that. So there's still a battle to go, and hopefully I don't break it, because at this point, if I break something, it'll be the spar, and then that would be, it'll weaken it. I'll probably fix it, but it'll weaken it. With this wire, it's 1.5mm. With the small wires, I tend to bend them backwards and forwards until they snap off. With this one, I do use the hand drill. I've got the disc on it, and I managed to cut it off. It takes a bit, but I cut it off, and it's not so, let's say, bent at the end. So I have left on this one, I believe, like 1.5mm or something more than I think is needed, so that I have some place to grip when bending it, when it's in place. And then if it's too long, then I'll just trim it down also with this in situ, let's say. So that's the battle so far. Quite a hard one, actually. It didn't work, it didn't pick up. Actually, when I was doing the first attempts, it would just go halfway up, so I have to place the servo at the right place and things like that. So quite a lot of frustration there until I somehow figured it out, and now it does the whole travel, down and up, down and up, and I could do this for a while, actually. It's quite fun. And then now to take it apart, as that's a kind of this, what do you call it, the prototype. Take it apart and try to building one of the real things, and see if it also goes up nicely. So in any case, as I say, I've been ranting on for quite a while. This is a big challenge of this model, at least the first big challenge. There'll be a lot, I'm sure, and at least learning from it, and that's the whole point of it, right? Challenges, learning, challenges again, frustration, posting, asking you for help, getting help, continuing. In any case, as always, thank you very much everybody for following along and all your tips and tricks, and I'll see you next time.